Stage 1. The decision. It starts with a feeling you cannot explain to anyone around you. Not dissatisfaction exactly. More like a quiet, persistent voice somewhere deep in your chest telling you that what you are doing is not what you are capable of. You are already a soldier. You have been in the British Army for 2, maybe 3 years. You are good at your job. Your corporal respects you, your section trusts you, and by any normal measure, your military career is progressing exactly as it should. But normal is the problem. You have heard about them, of course, every soldier has. The Special Air Service, 22 SAS, the regiment that doesn't advertise, doesn't explain itself, and doesn't need to. You have seen the looks on the faces of men who attempted selection and came back. Some of them don't talk about it at all, and somehow that silence says more than any story could. You have heard the numbers. Hundreds attempt it, a handful pass. The exact figures vary depending on who is telling the story, but the core truth never changes. It is the hardest military selection process in the world. And most people who try it fail, and failing it does not make you weak. It simply means the regiment decided you were not ready. You think about this for weeks. You think about it on runs, on guard duty, lying awake at night staring at the ceiling of your barracks. You do not tell anyone you are considering it because saying it out loud makes it real, and making it real means eventually finding out whether you actually have what it takes. That uncertainty is the most uncomfortable thing you have ever sat with. Then one morning you wake up and the uncertainty is gone, not because you have answered the question, but because you have decided that not knowing the answer is worse than the risk of finding out. You walk into your sergeant's office and you tell him you want to volunteer for SAS selection. He looks at you for a long moment, says nothing for 3 full seconds, and then nods once. That nod changes your life. Stage 2. Pre-selection preparation. Nobody tells you exactly what is coming. That is deliberate. The regiment does not publish a preparation guide, does not send you a training plan, does not hold your hand through the months between volunteering and actually arriving at the start line. What you get is a date, a location, and the broadly understood knowledge that if you arrive unprepared, the hills of the Brecon Beacons will demonstrate that fact to you very quickly and very painfully. So you prepare alone, or as close to alone as makes no difference. You begin running with a Bergen, a large military rucksack, on your back. You start light and build the weight week by week until you are carrying 35 pounds across rough terrain for hours at a time. Your boots need to be broken in perfectly because a blister in week 1 of selection is not just painful, it is potentially the thing that ends everything. You run in the mornings before duty, you run in the evenings after duty, you run on weekends across whatever rough ground you can find near your base, hill training where possible because the Brecon Beacons are not flat and your body needs to know what it feels like to climb when your legs have already been running for 4 hours. You study navigation. Map reading at SAS selection level is not the gentle classroom exercise you learned in basic training. It is navigating alone at night across featureless moorland in driving rain to a grid reference that is 12 miles from where you are currently standing, with no path, no landmarks, and a time limit that does not care about weather, terrain, or how your body feels. You practice until reading a map and translating it into movement across ground becomes as natural as breathing. Your diet changes, your sleep discipline tightens. You become, in these months of preparation, slightly obsessive, and you recognize that the obsession is appropriate, because the thing you are preparing for demands it. Men who treat SAS selection as something they will simply try and see how it goes do not pass. The men who pass are the men who have already decided before the first day that they will not stop unless their body physically makes the decision for them. You arrive at Hereford carrying everything you own in a Bergen and a quiet, focused determination that sits differently from nerves. Nerves want to run away. This feeling wants to start. Stage 3. Selection. Endurance phase. The hills. The Brecon Beacons in January are a specific kind of hostile. The wind comes from every direction simultaneously, the rain is horizontal, the ground is a mixture of peat bog, loose rock, and grass that hides ankle-breaking holes beneath it. The temperature sits just above freezing during the day and drops below it at night. It is, by any reasonable assessment, not a place where human beings should be moving at speed carrying heavy weight across unmarked terrain for 6 days in a row. And yet here you are. The hills phase of SAS selection lasts approximately 4 weeks, with the endurance phase, the infamous fan dance and long drag, forming its brutal heart. The fan dance is a solo march over Penwai Fan, the highest peak in the Beacons, carrying Bergen and rifle, completed within a time that is never officially published but is known to be unforgiving. You climb in the gray morning light, legs burning, lungs working, weight of the Bergen shifting with every step on the uneven ground. The summit is cold and exposed and offers no reward beyond the knowledge that you now have to go down the other side and come back up again. You are completely alone. That is the thing that strikes you hardest in the first days. The total absence of the group dynamic that has defined every military experience you have had until now. There is no section. There is no corporal pushing you. There is no one to draw energy from, no one to compete against in the immediate visible sense. There is only you, the ground, the weight on your back, and the grid reference on your map that represents your next checkpoint. This is by design. The regiment is not looking for men who perform well in a team. The regiment is looking for men who perform well alone, in miserable conditions, with no external source of motivation, because that is what the job actually requires. In the field, separated from your patrol, in enemy territory with a compromised mission, the only resource you have is yourself. Selection finds out whether that resource is sufficient. Most people discover it is not. Not yet. Not today. You watch men drop around you, not dramatically, not with visible collapse, but quietly. A man is at a checkpoint ahead of you, and then he is not. You hear later that he handed in his Bergen and walked away. No shame in it. The regiment does not think less of those men. It simply determined they were not ready for this specific thing, and honesty about that is more valuable than suffering through something you were not built for. You keep moving, not because you feel strong. You stopped feeling strong 2 days ago. You keep moving because stopping is the one thing you have decided you will not do. Your feet hurt. Your shoulders ache from the Bergen straps in ways you did not know shoulders could ache. There is a blister on your left heel that you taped this morning and are now trying not to think about. You eat on the move, drink on the move, navigate on the move. You sleep for a few hours at night and rise before dawn and do it again. By the end of the hills phase, your body has been changed by what has been asked of it. You are leaner, harder, quieter in a way that goes beyond physical. Something has been stripped away, some layer of the self that needed comfortable conditions to function. What remains is more essential, more durable. Stage 4. Jungle Training. You survive the hills. You are one of a significantly reduced number who do. There is no celebration. The regiment does not celebrate the completion of one phase when the next one is already waiting. You are told you are going to Belize. You pack your kit and you go. The jungle is the opposite of the Beacons in every sensory detail, and identical to it in every way that matters. Where the Beacons were cold and gray and open, the jungle is hot and green and claustrophobically close. The vegetation presses in from every direction. Visibility drops to a few meters in any direction. Sounds come from everywhere and mean everything and nothing simultaneously. The heat and humidity combine into something that sits on your chest like a physical weight that never lifts. Not even at night when the temperature drops slightly, but the moisture in the air remains absolute. You learn to move through the jungle silently, not quietly, silently. The difference between the two is the difference between a broken twig and no broken twig, between a disturbed branch and an undisturbed one, between an enemy who hears you coming and an enemy who does not. You learn to read the jungle, the sounds that mean safety, the sounds that mean threat, the particular silence that means something large is moving nearby and has stopped. You learn navigation without landmarks, using compass bearings and pace counts through terrain that has no straight lines and no clear paths. You learn to sleep in a hammock strung between trees, wrapped in a waterproof sheet while rain drums down from above, and to wake in 4 hours and be immediately, completely functional. The jungle does not allow you the luxury of warming up slowly. You wake and you move, and you are already in the job before your mind has fully registered that you are awake. By the end of jungle training, you move differently. You think differently. The environment that felt hostile on the first day has become readable, navigable, almost familiar. This is what the regiment is producing. A soldier who can function at full capacity in any environment on Earth, regardless of what that environment is doing to his body and mind. Stage 5. Continuation. Training. You are close now. Close enough that you can feel it, and the regiment knows that feeling and uses it. Continuation training is where the specialist skills are built. Combat survival, escape and evasion, resistance to interrogation, signals, demolitions, medicine, languages. The curriculum is vast, and the standards are absolute. The resistance to interrogation phase deserves its own conversation. After days of deliberate sleep deprivation, physical stress, and exposure, you are captured, by your own side, playing the enemy, and subjected to interrogation techniques designed to break down your resistance. The cold, the noise, the stress positions, the psychological pressure applied by trained interrogators who know exactly which levers to pull. You are permitted to give only 4 pieces of information: name, rank, number, date of birth. Everything else, regardless of what is done to you, is a line you do not cross. This is where selection finds the final layer. Not physical toughness, you proved that in the beacons. Not technical skill, continuation has built that. This is about something deeper. The absolute core of who you are under maximum pressure, when every instinct in your body is screaming that cooperation will make it stop. The men who pass this phase are the men who discover, in the worst hours of it, that there is something inside them that pressure cannot reach. Stage 6. Badged. The day you receive your beige beret and SAS wings is quieter than you imagined it would be. There is no enormous parade, no stadium filled with cheering crowds. It is a brief formal moment in front of the regiment, the beret placed on your head, the wings on your arm, a handshake from the commanding officer, and then it is done. You stand there, badged, and you try to feel what you expected to feel: triumph, relief, the roar of achievement. What you actually feel is something quieter and deeper and more permanent than any of those things. You feel ready, not invincible, never invincible. The regiment specifically trains that illusion out of you, but ready, capable of things that most human beings will never be asked to do and would never choose to face. You think about the morning you walked into your sergeant's office with a feeling in your chest you couldn't name. You think about the months of running with a Bergen before dawn. You think about the beacons in January, the horizontal rain, the aching shoulders, the blister on your left heel, and the single decision you made and remade every single hour. That stopping was the one thing you would not do. The beret is on your head, the wings are on your arm, the work is just beginning, and you have never in your life felt more like yourself.